After the unparalleled success of Resident Evil Village as the best-selling Resident Evil of the past decade, Capcom announced that it intends to thank fans by releasing a new DLC for the game. Although Capcom has not said anything since the release of the extension will be released for free for gamers in 2022, according to unofficial reports. These reports make sense, as both extension packages of the previous title of this series, Resident Evil 7, Biohazard, were also published within almost a year of the original game being released, so it's not surprising that in a few months, there will be news of the release of this DLC from Capcom. There are many possibilities for Resident Evil Village next DLC, most of which relate to the game's timeline. Note that the title Resident Evil 7 had 2 extension packages. The first package, Not a Hero, continued the story of the game right from the endpoint, and the second package, The End of Zoe, was happening elsewhere, after the events of the first DLC. Due to this trend, creators may be planning to continue the story of the Resident Evil Village game through an added content. With potential to continue the story of the 8th edition of the series with an update, creators may want to take a new trend in this update, for example, tell the story of popular characters during game events, or even to bring the characters in other titles in the series. Whether Capcom decides to continue the game story process like the previous title with this DLC and decides to do something innovative, these characters will have the potential to be there. After the controversy that Lady Dimitrescu created in Resident Evil Village and considering her very positive impact on the recognition and sale of the title, it makes perfect sense that Capcom intends to devote at least one part of the story to her from this package, especially since many fans were very disappointed with the character's death in the first half of the game, and even from this. The issue has complained to Capcom. Of course, it's interesting to know that this idea needs to cost less, as all the places associated with this character are in the game files. This in itself increases the likelihood of making an DLC about Dimitrescu. Apart from this, reports point out that part of the character's story has been removed from the game and the files related to it are complete. If Capcom decides to publish a story section about Lady Dimitrescu character, its story must be before the events related to the arrival of the game's protagonist character, Ethan, into the village. According to the game's story, Lady Dimitrescu character comes to the village to meet Mother Miranda because of her hemophilia and hoping for treatment. Mother Miranda also infects her with the parasite, Kudu. While impressing his mind, the parasite gives her immense restoration power, tallness, and long, winning pans. Therefore, it is not far-fetched for the creators of the story of Lady Dimitrescu arrival in the village to show us her investment and how she met her 3 daughters in this package. In doing so, there is an opportunity for the creators to show us the village where the game is played before it becomes a monster-filled ruin. Of course, this is not all fiction. If you look at the secret writings and references of the game inside the Dimitrescu Palace, Lady Dimitrescu Palace of Residence, you will find that the palace has witnessed many events, none of which are shown in the original story, and each of these events has the potential for a new narrative. If Elena Lupu's quick and stupid death was somewhat strange and unnatural to you, you're not alone, and of course, that's not unreasonable. According to Resident Evil 8's original plan, Elena's character's death would have happened much later than the events, Louise's house, and it was even supposed to be one of the 3 most playable characters in the game's original story. In fact, if you look closely at the game trailer, you'll see sequences of Elena's character, alongside Ethan, who don't exist in the original game. According to an interview by one of the game's creators, large parts of Elena's role were removed from the game shortly before the end of the title of Resident Evil Village, and the interesting thing is that the content and files about her are not only almost ready, but also available to the creators. So it makes sense for the creators to use these files and Elena's character in the next extension package. On the other hand, it creates a lower cost for Capcom. Given that we have not seen Elena's death in our eyes, it is possible that the creators forged her death and planned to show the story of her escape from the village to gamers during this DLC. Given that Elena is present in large part of the unpublished stages of the Resident Evil Village game, fans' desire to see her face again in this DLC is enormous. Look at the visual design perspective as Resident Evil Village, you'll see undeniable similarities between this title and the Resident Evil 4 game. Both titles start in the first part of a village, both have a mysterious palace in their second part, both end up in a large, industrial factory in their third part, and in both of these titles, we see a mysterious gunman supplying gamers. But the similarity of the 2 games is much greater than that, as Ada Wong's character is likely to have been in both of these titles. Yes, you heard right. Not only is it likely that Ada Wong will be secretly involved in the Resident Evil Village game, She is also one of the characters who will be very likely to be in the upcoming DLC, and there is a strong reason for this. The behind-the-scenes files and sketches released from Resident Evil Village show us that the creators have put a lot of time and energy into designing different scenarios around this character. After news of Ada Wong removal from the game was released, fans of the Resident Evil series began researching and theorizing and found that despite the removal of all content associated with Ada Wong, her footprint was still seen in the game. This has led fans to expect him to be in the next Resident Evil Village extension package. According to files released from behind the scenes of the game, the creators' plan was for Ada Wong to find Mother Miranda Parasite by the name of Kodo and sell it to companies like Umbrella, and to deal with Ethan's character a few times during the game and even save his life. For unknown reasons, this scenario was removed from the game. There is another theory about how Ada Wong is present in this package. In the early parts of the game, Ethan is surrounded by lichens, and, while close to death, the village bell is ringing and the monsters abandon Ethan. Sounds familiar? That's because at the beginning of the title Resident Evil 4, the same thing happens to the protagonists, Leon S. Kennedy, and just when it's completely surrounded, the church bell is ringed by Ada Wong, and the monsters abandon him. Ada are likely to be the one who saves Ethan by ringing the bell. Since the similarity between the two titles Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 4 is very high, the possibility of Ada Wong's presence in the future of the game cannot be overlooked. In the final scene of the game Resident Evil Village, we encounter the character of Rose Winters, the daughter of Ethan, who goes to Ethan's grave and pays tribute. Then we find out that he's considered a biological weapon, because the BSAA group, including a sniper, is watching her on behalf of Chris Redfield's character. We don't have any information about this character. Maybe the creators want to prepare us for Resident Evil 9 events with this extension package. Although there is little evidence based on this issue, it is unlikely from an economic and propaganda perspective. One of the reasons for the high sales of Resident Evil titles is the presence of characters we already know, or at least have minimal familiarity with. If Capcom intends to sell high for the next title of Resident Evil, it should make the audience somewhat familiar with this character. Perhaps by an animation, or perhaps by a small extension package. Although Capcom has not said anything about what character will be in the next adjunct package, it seems that the presence of Chris Redfield and his group, the Hound Squad, is certain in this adjunct package, either in Mercenaries or as a fictional part of the treaty. Although only in a small part of the Resident Evil Village game we witness the presence of the Hound Squad and Chris, the squad plays a key role in the events of the game. The evidence is based on the fact that, at the same time as Ethan's adventure in the story of the game and his clash with the Four Masters, the group has also been battling huge threats around, from which an intriguing annexation package can be made. In the end, choosing Chris and Hound Squad could be Capcom's clearest and easiest choice for the upcoming annexation package, but that doesn't mean it's going to be a bad choice for the package at all. After the unparalleled success of Resident Evil 7, in 2017 and the record-breaking Resident Evil Village game over the past year, the future of the series is brighter than ever after the release of about 20 games, 10 movies and 4 animations. Apart from the films under construction, the rumors of making the Resident Evil 4 move and its remake for VR, we'll likely see more news from Capcom about the series in the near future.